and welcome. This is Kriyado Siddiqui and you're watching the weekend debate that we are expecting gets even more explosive today as the Prime Minister went for an all-out attack against the Congress party. Prime Minister Narendra Modi raked up the Batla House encounter during a rally at Gujarat's Kheda district and claimed that terrorism has peaked under Congress government. He even termed the grand old party as terror sympathizers and called them out for doing appeasement politics. The Prime Minister even highlighted how his government after 2014 took a tough stance against terrorism and also carried out surgical strikes across the border. He reminded everyone at the rally that the opposition parties had questioned the ability of the country's Jawans. Many would question the context and the timing of such a statement that's coming in as the battle heads to Gujarat. But first, let's take a look at what exactly has the Prime Minister said at Kheda.
याद करिए दिल्ली में जब बाटला हाउस एनकाउंटर हुआ तो कांग्रेस के नेता आतंकियों के समर्थन में रोने लगे लेकिन कांग्रेस की सरकार आतंक को नहीं मोदी को टारगेट करने में लगी रही। परिणाम ये हुआ कि आतंकियों के हौसले बढ़ते गए। देश के हर बड़े शहर में आतंकवाद सिर चढ़कर बोलने लगा। कांग्रेस हो या वोट बैंक के भूखे कुछ दल, ये लोग सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक पर भी सवाल उठाते हैं, हमारी सेनाओं के सामर्थ्य पर भी सवाल उठाते हैं।
Let me take this across to my guests who are joining us on the broadcast this evening. Charu Pragya of the BJP joins us. Also joining me is Ashpreet Kadyal of the Congress Party. Savio Rodrigues, who's a senior journalist, is also with us. And also joining us is Suman C. Raman. Now, Charu, I'll begin with you. The fact that on the one hand, BJP will call Congress a non-player in Gujarat. And yet, the Prime Minister in his speech chooses to go ahead and target the very party. Why is that?
Poonam, we have to remember that the words spoken by our Honorable Prime Minister today are very much the truth. You are choosing to focus on 30 seconds of a speech, but let me remind all our viewers that the terrorist attacks that he spoke about, whether in Surat, whether in Ahmedabad, in the capital city of Delhi, whether in Mumbai, yesterday was 26/11. It was so many years since the most fatal attack of terrorism our country has ever suffered. It was an anniversary of that. We were all grieving on that day, and that is the truth. Because during the Congress regime, we have seen that neither our borders were secure, and enemies were not just outside the nation, they were inside our nation. BJP government, since it has come to power, has stopped that. And that is a fact. Instead of debating it, I think we should be applauding the fact that Prime Minister Modi has walked the talk on having a zero tolerance policy towards terror, towards terrorists, and anybody who eyes our country with anything akin to threatening our national security.
Ashpreet, are you satisfied with the kind of response that's coming in from the BJP, considering the Congress party, of course, has been spoken about in the Prime Minister's speech? We are talking about the battle for Gujarat, and he goes on to say that Congress has not done anything to combat terrorism.
Am I audible? There was a bit of a lag that I could feel.
No, you are.
Am I clearly audible?
Yes.
Right. So first of all, see, the Bharatiya Janata Party needs to stop blowing hot and cold at the same time. Please give up your double standards. On one hand, they say that the Congress party is not really a competitor. On the other hand, Mr. Modi won't really talk of what the Bharatiya Janata Party has done in 2 decades, but would talk of the Congress
Charu,
party.
let him complete.
Now, there is a major reason as to why Mr. Modi could not talk of the 2 decades of Bharatiya Janata Party's governance in Gujarat, because nothing has been done. And number 2, Mr. Modi is afraid of the Congress party. That's why he said to his own workers, Congress ki silent campaign hai. Be aware of it. There is an undercurrent of it. So that's why he is now trying to bash the Congress party and not talk of his own party's, work that has been done. Number 2, for us, the Indian Army has the utmost respect. We salute the Indian Army but it was Mr. Modi who forgot the sacrifice of our soldiers. And that's why he went to Pakistan unannounced and with regards to a surprise visit, met Mr. Nawaz Sharif, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, on whose orders our Jawans have been shot. Their families have been led to, suffer and be without them. And number two was sipping chai, Kashmiri chai with them, having biryani with them.
Okay, all right, Charu, quickly, if you want to return.
No, quickly,
all right.
very quickly.
Yes, Charu, please go ahead.
The foreign minister said, what?
Ashpreet, I'll come to you.
One last statement. Just one last statement.
No.
The foreign minister said,
You can't talk over one another. Once again, Ashpreet, I've asked Charu to respond. Okay.
Mr. Modi acted
Last I checked, Ashpreet, my name was Charu. Kindly wait for your turn.
All right, Charu, please go ahead.
Learning from you.
See, we have to remember that when 26/11 happened, Congress was pushing papers. They were not talking about who has attacked India and how can we best retaliate. That is what Congress was doing. When the Batla House encounter happened, Mrs. Gandhi was crying for terrorists, not concerned about the nation. She was crying for terrorists. Ashpreet, that is actually rich that you can just raise your
One second, one at a time, please. One at a time.
Mr. Modi go to Pakistan.
And pretend Congress did not just allow a free run to terrorists. Don't speak over me. Do not speak over me. I do not debate like this.
Okay, all right, Charu. Let me come in here. Ashpreet and Charu. One second. Let me come in here. Charu, please continue. You will continue. Let me actually come in. Let me come in here. The fact that this is the accusation that has come in from not just the Congress party but the opposition. Why is BJP choosing to be selective when it comes to their association with the Indian army? Why use the army to its advantage is the big charge. How does the BJP respond to that?
Okay, so first of all, you are trying to say that political will has nothing to do with the way the country progresses or functions. I'm sorry. If this was an NDA government, when 26/11 happened, the retaliation would have been swift. Exactly what happened with the surgical strike. Did they act on it? No. Do they think Pakistan is going to respond to a No. Do they think that their policy of sympathizing with terrorists, not just then, even right now, is not being noticed by people? And Ashpreet forgets, you are trying to say that the people of Gujarat don't know what they are doing when they are choosing to vote. Okay. 27 years is not a small amount of time. It's historical. And this time, the largest sweep of seats ever. Man. That is the truest stamp of approval.
Do you agree with the statement?
Okay, one second.
Ashpreet, statement that this is how our neighbors are to be treated.
Okay, Ashpreet, I will come to that. I'll come to that. Let me get in Sumant. Sumant, you have seen both the BJP and the Congress respond to what the Prime Minister has said today. How do you first choose to take the statement? Ashpreet, 1 second. I'm asking my question to Sumant. Let Sumant take that. How do you choose to read this statement? A, why such a statement? Why bring in the Congress party at such a time? Do you question the timing, or do you think this is well within the fact that Gujarat is going into polls?
Look, we have seen a pattern. Every time a state goes into polls, we get polarizing speeches. We get the Congress linked with, being soft on terror and, minority appeasement. It is the same tactic. While it could be somewhat understandable in a few other states, I think that after 27 years in power, you need to go back to the people to get re-elected by bashing an opponent who's been decimated in virtually every part of the country. And you are not ready to say, vote us for what we have done in the last 5 years. I mean, that is something that speaks for itself. The very fact that a person as senior as the Prime Minister will have to do Congress bashing on the election trail and not say, look, this is what we have done for you. This is what our government has done for you in 5 years. So you want to keep the good, quote unquote, good times going, vote BJP. End of story. We don't see that message at all. And the Home Minister says, we taught them a lesson in 2002.
Yes, I'll come to that.
So it is a tragedy. It is a tragedy.
Charu, would you like to
It's
come in
not
here?
about
The fact that 2 points. One, Ashpreet also mentioned the fact that the Prime Minister's also gone on to call Congress doing a silent campaign. On the one hand, BJP will go ahead and bash the Congress ki Bharat Jodo Yatra Gujarat se hoke bhi nahi nikal rahi hai. They are scared of the fact that BJP is going to come to the power again. Yet the Congress and its name is being used in the speeches by the Prime Minister. The other thing is there is a very inflammatory speech that's been made by the Home Minister of the country talking about how the rioters of 2002 have been taught a lesson. He's talking about a pogrom. Is he legitimizing it? Why make such a statement?
So I think you have not heard his speech in totality. He was very clear when he said that appeasement politics has been a problem, and once that has been rooted out from the state of Gujarat, things have been peaceful. You can go back and hear his speech as many times as you like, and his message is very clear. I don't think anybody in this country should be siding with rioters, with
Charu,
terrorists.
the headlines today were blaring with the fact that he was talking about rioters in 2002 and how they deserve to be taught a lesson.
Yes.
That's something that has come out as an extract of that very speech. No, I'm just asking you that question.
Are you trying to tell me that anti-social elements deserve aartis and garlanding? Is that what you're trying to say? They have been treated the way they deserve to be treated. Also, if you're trying to say that Congress is not a part of this election at all, great. I maintain that because I've been in Gujarat for a week, and let me tell you, it does not exist on ground. At the same time, aren't they contesting these polls? Have they not put their candidates out? Why? And while we are talking about surgical strikes or any other thing after that, isn't that akin to talking about the good work that we have done for this country? We are, of course, talking about our style of governance, and if you still choose to focus on 30 seconds of speech rather than the work that has gone on in the country for 8 years, for 27 years in Gujarat,
One second.
Can I ask her one question?
Let her complete.
On the basis of the last 27 years, and you can go on the ground in Gujarat and back me up on this. People are supporting BJP and Modi ji. They are not going to do that.
Okay, all right. Charu, got your point. Yes, Sumant. Sumant, please go ahead. Yes.
One question to Charu Pragya. She said, do you expect anti-social elements to be received with garlands? Is she referring to the rapists and murderers of Bilkis Banu and her family who were greeted with garlands? Is she referring to those who lynched the man and where Jayant Sinha was seen garlanding those people? Who is she referring to? What is she talking about? I mean, the public are not seeing. They're seeing what is going on. And who are you?
What kind of
was
a
taught
statement
a
is this? Can
lesson?
you not give a blanket statement against those who are against society, against the country?
Who was taught a lesson in 2002?
When it suits your politics.
Who was taught a lesson in 2002?
Do you see
Who was
things
taught a
only through
lesson
the
in
prism of
2002?
your selfish politics?
Answer the question. Who was taught a lesson?
All right. Okay. Allow me to come in here. All right. We've had a one-to-one. Allow me to come in here. That's okay. There are too many questions that have been asked. Got your point. Sumant, got your point. Ashpreet, I would come to you. Let me actually bring in Savio. Savio, you've been patiently hearing the discourse that has unfolded. It has gone from the Prime Minister's speech to how the Home Minister referred to the 2002 saying that the rioters need to actually be taught a lesson. From there to even the remission that has been granted to Bilkis Banu rapists. All of that put together, where is the politics really going when it comes to battle for Gujarat? How do you see that played out right now?
Well, to be very honest, all you're hearing about in Gujarat right now are election rhetorics and election propaganda. That's number one, and that's expected. But there is an element of truth in what the Prime Minister said as far as terrorism is concerned. And let me highlight the aspects of terrorism, especially on the Mumbai 26/11 attack. The Central Intelligence Agencies on November 18th, November 19th, November 21st, and November 24th had credible intelligence, and this was revealed by one of the undersecretaries who was in the Ministry of Home Affairs. And this was intelligence that was made available. It was there. It could have been averted. But the government at that point of time, for lack of foresight or lack of intelligence at that point of time, when I mean intelligence, putting the analysis of the information that the intelligence agency gave them. Therefore, you saw one of the most horrendous attacks on 26/11 on Indian soil. So there's not the Prime Minister is not fibbing or creating a story. The fact of the matter is there has been considerable amount of terrorism attacks that have happened in the country during the Congress or the UPA time.
Okay.
And that is something that is serious. Today, when you look at terrorism, you have to look at terrorism far more assertively. You have to look at
Arshpreet, how do you respond to this? How do you respond to this? There are a fair bit of statistics that also are there in the answer that Savio has given me. Considering the Prime Minister has categorically used the term that there is terrorism in Congress's vote bank. These are the Prime Minister's words. How does the Congress party choose to respond to this?
Well, it's Mr. Modi being the Prime Minister being desperate since he knows that they are losing Gujarat. So they would just say anything about any opposition party that has chances of winning at Gujarat. Number two, Mr. Modi can, talk of incidents that are years ago, but cannot recall an incident and talk of it, which is a few days ago. The Mobi tragedy. Has he even talked of it? Has he even addressed it? Has he apologized for it? Not at all. Number two, the Bharatiya Janata Party needs to buy a mirror for themselves. When after Mr. Modi visited Pakistan and hugged the Prime Minister, on whose orders our jawans are shot, the then Foreign Minister said, this is how you treat your neighbors. You treat them with respect. And Mr. Modi acted like a statesman that he went there to meet with the Prime Minister. Now, this goes on to suggest that the Bharatiya Janata Party has no respect and regard for our jawans, for our martyrs, for their families. And the Bharatiya Janata Party only knows to talk about us.
One second, Charu.
Now, second,
Can
Charu tell us one thing? Why did you allow ISI into the Pathankot Air Base?
Okay, Charu, quickly respond. These are the allegations. It will keep going back and forth, Arshpreet. I got your point. It will keep going back and forth. Again, going back to the same question, why are the armed forces become some sort of a pawn when it comes to this election? On the one hand, there will be siding with the armed forces, obviously talking about how the surgical strikes again has been brought into the discourse. On the other hand, Congress party is talking about how the Prime Minister went, demeaning the armed forces to Pakistan. Why should it be a matter of talk at this moment? Why use it to the election advantage?
Well, it's the Prime Minister.
Arshpreet, question is to Charu.
Arshpreet,
it's for Charu. Quickly make your point. Arshpreet,
and my name is Charu.
Charu, please go ahead. Quickly make your point. I need to wrap this up.
I can't speak over other people.
Please, Charu, go ahead. Quickly.
See, I have lived the last 30 years of my life shuttling between the cities of New Delhi and Mumbai. Both the cities torn apart by repeated bomb blasts. I remember people would feel scared going shopping to a marketplace before a festival because there is no guarantees of life. Modi ji has changed that and I am so proud of that. Today, Arshpreet comes from a party which was promoting a man like Situ who not just went across the border without getting permission from the government of India.
This will go on. This will digress as well. However, there's an important statement that the Prime Minister had made. We'd all like to acknowledge that fact. I'd like to thank my guests on this one note. That the fact that the Prime Minister is indeed talking about how there is a terrorism threat, whether it is just the state of Gujarat or the entire country, that needs to be looked at. But however, going ahead and accusing a particular political party that the BJP itself claims that is a non-player in Gujarat, how much of that is justified is also the larger question. I'd like to thank all my guests for joining me on the broadcast. Unfortunately, that's all the time that I had on this debate. Slipping into a very, very short break at the moment. In fact, we're getting some breaking news that we have to cut into. We are told that there have been demonstrations and protests against China's strict zero COVID policy. These demonstrations have now spread across the country after a deadly apartment fire that erupted in northern western city of Urumqi that led to questions over such rigid antivirus measures. These are visuals that we're bringing to you from China. The uproar against COVID curbs continues. Abhishek Jha, who's brought us all those inputs, is joining us on the broadcast. Yes, Abhishek.
We are seeing this latest surge of protests that is coming in the wake of continued lockdown and restrictive living conditions across China. And if you talk about the last few days, there is no major city in China which has not seen such mass protests. Talk about Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and you mentioned Urumqi. So all these major cities and provinces are witnessing. A lot of people are on the streets out there. However, the police and administration is also maintaining kind of calmness, and they're not trying to use their brute force, which China is always known for. And these are a rarity. Like such mass civil protests happening in China is a rarity because China is known for having a very strict governance system where civil rights are not as openly given to the people, or democracy is not as much practiced. So in that context, it becomes really a major challenge for Xi Jinping, since he has just been chosen as the third consecutive term for the president of China, and this zero COVID policy has been one of the bone of contention during his political tenure. And how he's going to deal with it, that remains a big question.
Right, Abhishek, thank you so much. So demonstrations and protests continue against China's strict zero COVID policy, and also that growing demand for the removal of President Xi Jinping is also continuing in China. We're leaving our viewers with that, slipping into a very, very short break right here on CNN News 18.